Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Becky Burns. My pronouns are she and they, and I serve on our Worship Associates team, which is made up of lay people who volunteer to assist our called ministers with our services. Today, I'm joined by the Reverend Kelly Crocker and the worship team of Linda Warren, Drew Collins, Stephen Gregorius, and Daniel Carnes. And a special thanks to all those volunteering in many roles today: greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, lay ministers, and sound technicians. And a special thanks and welcome to our guest musician, Brian Rainey. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you're visiting us today, welcome. We're so very glad you're here with us. And if you'd like more information about FUS, please stop by the welcome table located in the Commons. We also hope that all of you will be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately following the service, also in the Commons. For those of you connecting today with us virtually, we're glad that you're here with us as well. And we hope that you'll take a moment and watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn about upcoming programs and activities. We have one special announcement today regarding our 2024 stewardship campaign. At the end of the calendar year, that reminds us that we are now halfway through our fiscal year. And we are pleased to share that the pledges comprising our 24-25 stewardship campaign have reached just over 90% of our goal. And we want to thank the 402 households who have already pledged and made their financial commitment to this community. Your generosity allows us to keep doing the good work of being a place of belonging and welcome for all. If you have not pledged yet for this current year, or if you have any questions about pledging, please reach out to Cheryl Valentine, our Director of Stewardship. Now, next weekend is one of our 2 all-music weekends, when our worship services center solely around music. On Saturday, you're welcome to join us for a community hymn and carol sing. And on Sunday, our annual Winter Choral Fest returns, featuring all 5 FUS choirs with guest instrumentalists. And now I invite you to join me in just a moment of silence as we center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this place and time as we join together once again in community.
Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the parts that are beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possible.
Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burdens, lift up your hope for something new to happen here.
Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now, to this moment.
Come, let us worship together.
And we invite you now to rise in all the ways that we do, and join in our words of affirmation as we light our chalice. We gather at this hour in the lineage of our ancestors, in anticipation of our descendants, in the presence of each other, and now in the light of this chalice flame. And we invite you now to take a moment to turn and greet those around you.
morning, let's sing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving heart, and we hear our voices in each other's words. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a
And I invite anyone who would like to come on up to the rug for our story to come on up. Good morning. How's your week? I like your stars. Hi. Oh, Cece, how are ya? Uh-oh. Whoa. How's everybody doing? That's a big panda. Is there a big panda up there? Oh, that is a big panda. Yeah, you can't see it too well with the bright light, but that is a big panda. How was your week? How'd you do with the cold? It was so cold. Did you like it? You ice skated? Oh, yeah. A person. So this is a story called The Three Questions. And it is based on a really, really old story from Leo Tolstoy. But this author, John Muth, made a picture book for us so that we can see the story too. So once upon a time, there was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my 3 questions. Then I would always know what to do. So here's the 3 questions. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Any thoughts? Yeah, Cleo? It depends. Yes. Not wrong, Cleo. Yeah, do you have a thought? Different people. I bet if we all sat and came up with our answers to those questions, they might all be different. What's that, Cece? Lots of possibilities. Yeah. Yeah. What was the last question? What is the right thing to do?
So for normal people, the right thing to do is be kind.
Be kind.
And it really depends if you're a normal person or a bully. So if you're a normal person,
Yeah.
then you should be kind.
Right?
But if you're a bully,
Mm-hmm.
your parents might say you should be a normal person, and once you become a normal person, you're kind.
Be kind. Yes, thank you. All right, so let's see where Nikolai ends up with all this. So Nikolai's friends considered the first question. Let's remember, when is the best time to do things? Sonia the heron said, to know the best time to do things, you must plan in advance. Gogol the monkey, who'd been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, you will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. Now, if we look at Gogol the monkey, is he watching and paying close attention? No. What's about to happen? A coconut is about to hit him in the head, right? And Pushkin, the dog, who was just about to fall asleep, rolled over and said, you can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut is about to fall upon your head. Nikolai thought for a moment, and he asked his second question, who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, because she was circling up in the sky. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol, who was stroking his bruised head. And those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Now, Nikolai thought some more, and he asked the third question, what is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, said the monkey. Fighting, barked the dog. Then, you think having fun all the time? Yes.
I think the most important people
Uh-huh.
are the ones who are like kind.
Okay, we've got ideas about the most important people. Okay, then the boy thought for a long time. He loved his friends and he knew they were trying their best to help, but their answers didn't seem quite right. So he had an idea. I know, he thought, I'm going to ask Leo the turtle. He's lived a very long time, so I'm sure he will know what I'm looking for. So Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains where the old turtle lived all alone. And when he arrived, he found Leo digging in his garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard. I have 3 questions and I came to ask your help. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him, and because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until all the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and the rain burst from the darkened clouds. As they moved through the cottage, Nikolai heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. So carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, and it was banging at the doors and the windows, and the panda woke up. Where am I? She said. And where is my child? Oh, no. So Nikolai ran out of the cottage as fast as he could. The storm was deafening. He pushed against the howling wind and the drenching rain, and he ran into the forest. There he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry and laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what Nikolai had done. Now the next morning, the sun was warm, the birds were singing, all was well in the world. The panda's leg was healing, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby. And at that moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure that everyone was all right. Nikolai realized he felt a great peace in himself. He had wonderful friends. He had saved the panda and her child. But he also felt a little disappointed because he still didn't have answers to his questions. So he asked Leo one more time. And the old turtle looked at him. But your questions have been answered. They have? Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was help. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby, and the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them feel safe. Remember then, there's only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one that you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one standing at your side. For these, my dear, are the answers to what is most important in the world. This is why we are here. What do you think? Oh, you liked it? All right. Applause is always welcome. What do you think about those answers, though? So the most important time now, the most important one is the one you're with, and the thing to do is help. Tell me, Cleo, you think it's basically what, babe? It is basically what you said. So here's the thing about all of you. You are wiser than you know. You all knew all the answers to those questions even before my story. All right, you all, thank you for listening. We're going to sing you out to class.
Oh, you can make the world so bright, and you can turn the day from night, and share your gift and spread your light, and learn what you know. And I think for this hymn, we should remain seated. We're going to sing Meditation on Breathing, and there are two parts. If you're looking at a hymnal, if you're not, it's fine. If you are, there are 3 lines. The top line is the melody. We'll sing that second. The second line is the descant. Linda will play that. If you already know it, you can sing it. And the bottom line is the drone line, which is just a 1-note line, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. We'll sing that twice, then we'll add the melody. If you want to keep singing the drone, you may.
As we attempt to walk responsibly on this planet, we need perspective. If we hope to make a difference, we need a place from which to act. As a UU minister and a Zen priest, I often find myself asking, what are the Buddhists' insights that can make our lives deeper and more productive? The point is to return. To find our depth is to return to daily life. We wander the world to find the wisdom is always here. It's always right at home. This is the secret of the Zen way. We sit quietly or walk quietly. We visit with a friend. To sit on a hillside with the rivers and the earth, the grasses and the trees, and enjoy that full round moon shining overhead is the fullness of Zen, and indeed, the fullness of our humanity. The point of Zen is just this, emptying. And out of this emptying, returning home. All I want to do is remind you, my friend, of the beauty and the grace of this moment. This is home. This very place where we find wisdom. This moment reveals what needs to be done and what can be left alone. Whatever traditions we claim, whatever religions we embrace, this moment shows its truth. This right here and now moment is the great play of existence, of life and death, and all that was and is and shall be. This very moment is both the doorway to heaven and heaven itself. Our teachers and friends who have walked the way before us stand at the door beckoning us. They give us a broad wink. A crooked finger wiggles at us, beckoning us, welcoming us. All we need to do is step through.
We find ourselves here in the season of Advent, a time of waiting and expectation. For those of us who grew up in faith traditions that observe the season of Advent, we can remember fondly what it was like each Sunday to light one more candle, knowing it was all leading up to the big one in the middle, the one lit at Christmas. I have many vivid memories of being a child, watching with anticipation as week after week another candle was lit. And I remember the Sunday when Father Colley called all the children to the front to watch closely as he lit the next candle. We were so excited to sit on the bright red carpet at the foot of the altar and watch his every move. Then he sat down with us and slowly said, "So, what were you all thinking about as I lit the candle?" Almost as one, our little voices chorused, "Christmas!" And he smiled his gentle smile and said, "Well, that's 3 weeks away still, and it'll be here before we know it. But what I want you to do is to be here and not there." And then we watched in amazement as he did the unthinkable. He slowly got up and blew out the candle. I think there were audible gasps from the adults in the room who had never seen a priest do such a thing before. He slowly turned to the adults in the congregation and said, "Now, I'm going to do this one again. And this time, just be here in this moment. Do not be 3 weeks away." Advent is a time of promise, expectation, preparation, hope. But we miss all the magic of it if we forget to be right where we are. Now, even better, I still remember the conversation in the car on the way home. I think it focused much around the question of, is he actually allowed to do that? And I think that was probably the conversation in every car on the way home from St. Pat's that morning. But for me, that message of don't forget to be right where you are has stayed all these years later. Being present to the here and the now. It is the wisdom and advice of every spiritual teacher, every guru, every wise one throughout time. Be here now, they tell us. Or as the author Annie Dillard once wrote, beauty and grace are performed whether or not we will sense them. The least we can do is try to be there. Now, a few weeks ago, I was talking with a friend who works in campus ministry, and she brings her new puppy with her to work every day. It is supposedly a support for her, but I think it is also a support for all the students who walk through the door. Now, this day, a student appeared in the doorway and asked if she could just come in and hang out with the pup. As she sat on the floor with the dog, she quietly and simply said, I wish I could be a dog right now so that I could just be instead of being anxious about all the things I don't know. The ability to just be here is one of the many things we love about dogs. They are the ones who must listen to the gurus because they know how to be filled with presence, to not be consumed with dread about the future, and as far as we can understand, they don't seem fixated or worried about what happened yesterday. They are undeniably brilliant at being present. We humans, on the other hand, struggle with cultivating an awareness of presence. How many of us, when given a free moment, will pull out our phone to see how many emails have piled up, to check the news, to see the missed calls. Even when we're driving, we're often elsewhere. It is not so easy to stay right where we are. But being present isn't just about slowing down and removing the distractions of the world. In a conversation with Krista Tippett, the poet David White described his return to poetry as a result of observing the natural world. He said, I went back to poetry because I felt like scientific language wasn't precise enough to describe all of the experiences I was having. Science, rightly, is always trying to remove the I. But I was really interested in the way that the I deepened the more I paid attention. And when I was on Galapagos, I began to realize that I was in deeply attentive states, hour after hour, watching animals and birds and landscapes. That's all I did for almost 2 years. And because of it, I began to realize that my identity depended not upon any beliefs that I had, but my identity actually depended on how much I was paying attention to things other than myself. And that as I deepened this intentionality and this attention, I started to broaden and deepen my sense of presence. Presence at its heart is an intentional act of awareness. We notice another, a space, a time. We understand ourselves differently in relationship to it. It is not a theoretical knowing, but an immersed knowing. When we bear witness to presence, we invite a conversation between the world and ourselves, and we are changed by the experience. Katsushika Hokusai was a Japanese artist and painter and printmaker in the late 1700s and the early 1800s. He's best known for his images of landscapes and everyday life in Japan. His works would remind you of the Hiroshige prints that hang in the loggia of our landmark building. And each time I see those Hiroshige prints, I think of the poem written by the poet and professor of East Asian Studies, Roger Keyes. Roger Keyes looked at Hokusai's paintings, and he tried to put words to the images that he was seeing. He wrote, Hokusai says, look carefully. He says, pay attention, notice. He says, keep looking, stay curious. He says, there is no end to seeing. He says, look forward to getting old. He says, keep changing. You just get more who you really are. He says, get stuck, accept it. Repeat yourself as long as it's interesting. He says, keep doing what you love. He says, keep praying. He says, every one of us is a child. Every one of us is ancient. Every one of us has a body. He says, every one of us is frightened. He says, every one of us has to find a way to live with fear. He says everything is alive. Shells, buildings, people, fish, mountains, trees, wood is alive. Water is alive. Everything has its own life. Everything lives inside us. He says, live with the world inside you. He says it doesn't matter if you draw or write books. It doesn't matter if you saw wood or catch fish. It doesn't matter if you sit at home and stare at the ants on your veranda or the shadows of the trees and the grasses in your garden. It matters that you care. It matters that you feel. It matters that you notice. It matters that life lives through you. Contentment is life living through you. Joy is life living through you. Peace is life living through you. He says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Look, feel. Let life take you by the hand. Let life live through you. Hokusai says, look carefully, notice. He says, live with the world inside you. When we can come into this moment, when we can be fully present with what is here and now, we can come into awareness of the world that lives inside us. Being present with ourselves creates space for all the emotions and experiences inside. It can be bittersweet because we get in touch with the joy, the gladness, the anticipation of the good to come. And we also touch the pain, the disappointment, the harsh realities of the world we inhabit. I'll be honest with you that I've been avoiding the news lately. I haven't wanted to keep seeing the next announcement that is only going to fill me with dread. Yet I know that this is a temporary absence, for I cannot remove myself from the suffering of the ones around me or the world for very long. Because any of us who have experienced suffering in our lives, and let's be honest, that is all of us, we know the importance of having others with us to witness the pain and to let us know we're not alone. Margaret Wheatley says, having someone present with you and for you, it doesn't make the suffering go away, although it sometimes changes the experience of pain and grief. When I bear witness, I turn toward another and am willing to let their experience enter my heart. I step into the picture by being willing to be open to their experience, to not turn away my gaze. Learning how to be present with the world that lives inside of us allows us to open to the world inside another. becoming aware of our own selves, we're able to notice the subtle expressions on the faces of those we love. We notice when a dear friend says, "She's okay," but something else is stirring beneath the surface. We look into the despairing face of a person in need rather than turning away. Our hearts may ache from all we cannot do, but our hearts are uplifted with expressions of care and compassion. We know what it is like when we are not offering our full presence to another. How often are we not paying attention to the ones we love or listening to what they're trying to share? We also know how painful it can be when we are asking for someone else's attention and they're engrossed in some other activity. In a talk at the South by Southwest Festival, Esther Perel, the famed relationship therapist, called out what she names artificial intimacy, where people supposedly are with each other but are not really present. Artificial intimacy, she says, is all the experiences that we have that are really pseudo-experiences. They should give us this feeling of something real, but they don't. Our partner, our child, our friend is talking to us about something deeply personal, and we are responding with, Instead of a connection, artificial intimacy brings a sense of loneliness. I remember when Sam was small, he was maybe 2 or 3, and he was trying to tell me something that mattered so deeply to him and clearly not to his mother. I was distracted, and he knew it, because the next thing I knew, his tiny hands were on either side of my face, staring into my eyes and saying, "Listen, I need you to listen." And I said, I am listening. And he said, "No, listen with your eyes." Whoops. I'm not saying that we can't mindlessly scroll at the end of a long day. Sometimes that is exactly what we need. I'm not saying we can't take moments to ourselves when the kids, the news, the inbox, the chores, all of it is vying for our attention. What I'm asking us to consider is who and what we give our attention to. What in our lives do we want to be most present to? Too often, the anxiety of the world grabs us and holds us tightly, pulling us away from the healing spaces, the work, the joy we need to survive and to help our communities survive. In the words of Dr. Brené Brown, attention is such an undervalued form of love. A dear friend sent me a poem years ago from Sheila Packa called "Not Forgotten." I learned to ride the 2-wheel bicycle with my father. He oiled the chain, clothes-pinned playing cards to the spokes, put on the basket to carry my lunch. By his side, I learned balance and took on speed. Centered behind the wide handlebars, my hands on the white grips, my feet pedaling. One moment, he was holding me up, and the next moment, although I didn't know it, he had let go. When I wobbled, suddenly afraid, he yelled, "Keep going, keep going." Beneath the trees in the driveway, the distance increasing between us, I eventually rode until he was out of sight. I counted on him. That he could hold me was a given. That he could release me was a gift. Anyone who has ever taught a child how to ride a bike knows the kind of presence that requires. What if we could hold ourselves, one another, and the world with that kind of attention, care, and love? What a gift that would be. Now, recently, the Washington Post published a column by Perry Bacon titled, "Don't Doom Scroll, Do These 5 Things Instead." Did anybody see it? Yeah, I know. How excited were you when you saw it, right? Because number 2 in the list of 5 really caught our attention. Number 2 was join a Unitarian Universalist congregation. What? Okay, little old us in the Washington Post? Now, Bacon shared his experience at a UU congregation in Louisville, Kentucky, where he found people engaging in politics in practical ways, and post-election found a space where the community could share and discuss the values and the ideals that they hold dear and that they felt had been rejected by their fellow Americans. Join a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Can we agree that right now, the world needs our presence and our loving attention? That so many are counting on us, and they need us to yell, "Keep going, keep going." I have been a part of lots and lots of conversations lately about how we as Unitarian Universalists let the world know we are here, that we value inclusion and equity, that we will work for justice as we honor and protect the marginalized among us. People have been asking, what symbol could we wear that acknowledges and indicates all of this? For those of you wearing a name tag today, take a look at it. You see your answer. The chalice symbol on that name tag is authentically who we are. A symbol born out of the horrors of World War II, when the Unitarian Service Committee needed a way to say, "You will be safe here. We will help you." That symbol was and is a light in a very dangerous time. This is our symbol. This is who we are. When you put on that name tag or wear a chalice pin on your coat, you aren't necessarily letting anyone else know who we are or what Unitarian Universalism is all about. But you are reminding yourself of who you are and who we are together, who we covenant to be in this world. That chalice says, I will show up. I will be present to myself, to you, to the world. That chalice says, I will not disengage. I will be here for you, and you are not alone. So wear your chalices, friends. Wear them knowing what they mean and where they came from, and live so that the world sees that light and knows it too. So I'll leave you today with a blessing from Jan Richardson that feels right for this moment here in Advent. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in a love that illumines every broken thing it finds. This is why we are here, for the mysterious and transformative and liberating work of being made into chapels, our hearts stretched and strengthened so that we can truly be present to all that is in us and each other with care, attention, and love, so we can hold more disappointment and more joy, more hope and more faith than we thought possible, so that we can bear the light and be the light in all times, and especially here and now.
I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which supports the ongoing work of this community and the work of our outreach recipient. This week's recipient is the Mount Zion Baptist Church Food Pantry, which serves the Madison community by providing food assistance for those experiencing food insecurity. The program supplies critical nutrition to many hungry families and individuals in our area. There are multiple ways to share your gifts this morning. Baskets are now being passed here in the auditorium for cash or checks, and you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. As you can see on the screen, our new text to give information. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
We gather each week bringing with us the cares and the concerns that live in our hearts. We share these here knowing they are held in love. Today we light a candle of joy from Roz Woodward, who had successful cataract surgery on Friday and her sight has been restored. Roz gives thanks for modern medicine, for surgeons, and for people who save lives and vision through organ donation. We celebrate with Roz and give thanks, and may the healing continue. And we light a candle of remembrance for the life of Embry Rucker of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Louisville, Kentucky. I invite you now to turn with me into an attitude of meditation with these words from Tamara Labach. Holy One who has given us the breath of life, today we remember to breathe deeply, to rest, to take in, to pause before we act, and then to take in another deep breath, poised on the edge, and risk jumping in, risk taking action, risk speaking up, risk using the gifts we have been given, so that at the end of our lives we can say with absolute clarity that no part of our existence was wasted in fear of failure or fear of success. Hold us. Prepare us the way to begin to offer the gift of our awakened presence, full of love and light today. These and the prayers of our hearts we lift up now in the silence. Blessed be, and amen.
There's love holding us. There's love holding all that we love. There's Now I invite you to rise in body and/or in spirit so we can sing a hymn that doesn't get sung enough. This actually was written, the words were inspired by a former minister of this church, Kenneth Patton, who wrote the original hymn, which is in our gray hymnal, for our own landmark auditorium for the opening of that building. So we claim this as one of our hymns.
As we leave this community of the Spirit, may we remember we are, therefore we love. Cosmic bits of mass and energy come to life together. We love, therefore we are. May we go forth and be humble before the wonder of what we dare to create together. Blessed be, go in peace. Please be seated for the postlude.